So let's begin. Welcome to the Friday session for SO101. This is, as we were just mentioning, like a really tight, kind of jam-packed hour where we present back the work that we've done in our teams over the week. And we get a bit of feedback, and then we take some time to dig into the individual assignments as well, and just kind of see where the conversation takes us if we've got time. And we always, of course, finish with the checkout, which will be really quick today. So to start the call, we're going to ask you a check-in question, which is a little bit detailed. And we're going to do a process where it's called a 1-2. Did we do this in week one? We did 1, 2, 4 all, right? We're breaking the process. We're going to do a 1-2, which is where you get a minute to think about this question. Then we're going to put you into a room with someone else to think together. And then we're going to ask you to come back and check in and take about 20 or 30 seconds each. So the area that we kind of we're curious about as we begin this training together is this concept, and Lisa, I'll get you to chime in after I've done the first pass at a description, is a concept called a learning edge, which is, we've all got things that we want to learn, or we want to, in professional development terms, we want to kind of get this, I don't know, this badge, or do this training, or like become certified in X area, or learn a new development language. But a learning edge is a little bit different in that it's kind of like, it's an area that you really want to learn, or like a concept or a theory, but there's something kind of preventing you. Like when you think about this thing, you get a bit like, I really want to do this, but there's something that's kind of getting in the way. So it's for me, I'll tell you in a minute when we check in. But Lisa, what would you like to add to how we talk about learning edge in self-organization?
Yeah, no, exactly how you put it. I always think of it as like the thing where you think that kind of learning target or that learning ambition that you have, that you always sort of push to the bottom of your list. It makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, like, oh, it's something I still am struggling with, or something that I'm not quite sure how to do. So it's something that's sort of on the edge of your comfort zone, but something that's really worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. Like, it's easy to procrastinate around your learning edge. It's kind of like, I know I should do this thing, but there's all these other skills that it's much easier for me to become competent in them. So I'll do them first. So I hope we're starting to uncover a bit of what a learning edge is. And I'm going to put the check-in question into the chat. We will give you 1 minute to just think down to the level of discomfort in your stomach when you think about the thing you've been really wanting to learn for a long time. And then when you start to get there, you'll know. And then we're going to put you in a room to share this with someone else and just kind of talk a bit. For how long, Lisa? 2 minutes?
Well, like a minute to reflect, and then 2 minutes in the pairs.
Yeah, a minute to reflect, 2 minutes in the pairs, and then we'll bring you back in for a quick 30-second check-in each.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go ahead thinking about the check-in question, which is, what is your learning edge?
Every time it's the same, middle of the sentence. You killed Dunya.
Sorry, Dunya. Okay, let's do some relatively quick check-ins. Who would like to start with your learning edge?
We can start maybe, Ethan. No, sorry.
Go ahead, Dunya.
with ATAM. So we share together our learning edge. So yeah, and it was quite, we were quite aligned, so it's quite funny. On my side, it was about to dedicate some slot of time during the week where I can get inspirational things, not only about learnings, but find out new philosophy, way of work, new technology that can be related to our industry or not. So yes, dedicate time to be inspired, and I give some example to ATAM, and he was quite aligned. I let you follow up, ATAM.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we were aligned with the fact that we just don't get the time during work. When we don't prioritize time to enrich ourselves with more information and more stuff to do. And I told you, for me, one of the action items for me was joining meetups group. So, which is after hours, but that's kind of a commitment. And the Boston area has, because lots of academy here and colleges between MIT, Harvard, BU, and Boston. So there are a lot of meetups group which are related to blockchain. Kind of get me out of the scope of only consensus and Ethereum, and learn what else is out there, and then go back to the team and share that. So that's one of the priorities I put to myself.
Great, thank you. And just another invitation, not to check in with this, but to think about what's behind the reason you're not doing it now. Like, what's really, from both of you, I heard something around making time. So what's lying deep at the bottom of that? Who would like to go next? Amanda, and then your partner.
I was with Alexander, and I was sharing with him, I actually have a master's in vocal performance, and I have always struggled with foreign languages my entire life and not catching on and whatnot. But it got to the point where, like, I trained both musical theater and opera. I was doing much better in opera, but I felt at an imitation point that I'm singing these syllables for a duration, and that's not respectful to the people and the culture, and it's not an effective communication mode. And so I actually walked away from that to kind of come back towards corporate work and helping others. And I'm, my strength is as a teacher and helping and leading. And I just felt that I could be more impactful that way. So I know that I gave up on that because my learning edge was, I couldn't do it. And it was easier to walk away than struggle.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Who's your partner?
It's me. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, my learning edge was I've never taken the time, or I've been too afraid to move into business development stuff. I've always been a programmer. I'm great at building things, so I've avoided dealing with the business of things. And I found that it's because a fear of seeking out a mentor or someone who could help me with that, or finding out the resources that I could do it. It just was like a mental block that I was just too nervous or I just couldn't speak up in the right ways in meetings. It actually goes to my immunity map, which I'm sure we'll get through later, but it's
Oh, you muted yourself. Was that intentional?
Oh, no, yeah, did. Sorry, I was finished. It's a little loud in here, so I didn't want to.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. So you've identified a kind of a lead up to your block, which is interesting. Okay. Who are you with, Kiba? Do you want to go next?
Yeah, it was me and Trace. So for me, my learning edge is this one machine learning technique called genetic programming. And it's just something I'm really interested in, and kind of goes to why I'm also here. It got me into kind of chaos theory and complex systems and things like that. So that's my learning edge. And then what's stopping me from learning it is that it's very esoteric. There aren't many people that do it, even in the academic world. So even finding resources to learn from is difficult, and then applying it and finding use cases and all these things, and then the time as well. Time's always a factor.
The ever elusive time factor. Thanks, Kiba. Go ahead, Trace.
My learning edge discussed with Kiba is around being decisive, and specifically around decisions that don't really matter. And I'll think of something slightly better that I could change. In fact, even with the learning edge itself, after Kiba and I talked, I thought of a better one, much more interesting, funnier, and more appropriate. And I guess it's going slightly better because I chose to not do that and actually commit to the one that I discussed with Kiba, which is a perfectly good learning edge. What's stopping me from doing it is I'm very steeped in lean and agile methodology where the world is constantly changing around you and you have to respond to change, and that your priorities can change in any given moment. You take the snapshot of right now, which can be really frustrating when you're working with a team that doesn't have an agreement to do exactly that.
Wow, that was, yeah, at the level. Thanks. And if you notice Lisa and I doing this weird thing, it just, in some of our communities that people we work with, when you're on a video call and you're like fully resonating with something someone's saying, you just do this to show that. In other realms, it's known as spirit fingers. You'll all be doing it soon. Okay, so Eva, who are you with?
I was with Claudel. Ours are kind of related. I actually had two. One is dealing with politics and it's persuading people and waiting for them to come around rather than just getting annoyed with them and telling them what you want. And then the other is dealing with people who are not accountable for their work. So that's it. His was, yeah, he can talk about his, but it's very closely related.
Yeah, thanks, Eva. Mine was related to patience in general, either at consensus, out of consensus, patience with people, patience with what I do. In general, I like fast-paced environment, and of course, not everyone likes fast-paced. So, get myself to the level of okay, it's okay, calm yourself down, breathe.
Okay, thank you both. Lisa.
Yeah, so my learning edge, one of them at the moment is being assertive and saying, expressing my needs, I guess. And what gets in the way for me to do that is this sort of unproductive mindset that being assertive is somehow being rude or being selfish or being unempathetic. And so often I kind of get swept away in, other people's needs, and it costs me. So that's my learning edge.
Thanks, Lisa. I've been noticing you applying it with me, which is great. I think mine is similar to yours, Amanda. It's it's around learning new languages, or particularly Spanish. And it's just I've thought about this a lot, why I procrastinate so much. And for me, it's really about, I don't want to be incompetent. I don't want to seem incompetent. I want to give up my advantage of being a communicator and being out of my depth, and so I just resist. And yeah, I think it feels similar, Amanda. It's fully just at the point now where I walk away or I fully commit, so I'm heading up against the learning edge and trying to do something. So yeah, please do think of that follow-up question in more depth. So what gets in the way, or what stops you from pursuing your learning edge? So many people did talk about time being a factor, which is interesting and not that uncommon, but still really get down to what is getting in the way there. I mean, time is one thing, but there may be some other inputs as well. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Lisa?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's interesting to think about consensus as a collective, what's consensus is learning edge. And if this is a pattern in consensus in general, if it's a learning edge for consensus to, to always be rushing. And I think I've heard this from people before, that sometimes this kind of remote working and calls and stuff can create that kind of culture. So it'd be interesting to think about how could you collectively confront that and explore that,
Yeah, that's really a good insight. What's the organizational learning edge, and how does that produce that in the way of culture? Okay, so we're going to go to the teams, and we're going to ask you to present back or share with us the work you've done on making your social contracts this week. And any volunteers to go first? We'll just leave it to you to work out between you how you present back. And you can just have a quick word to each other here and now. it's not like a big production. It's just like, let's adopt some of that lean, agile design thinking mindset that Trace was bringing in, and just push it up, even if it's not fully polished or anything like that.
We're happy to go first. Amanda, we have a personal and professional contract, and maybe I'll jump in with the personal and hand it over to Amanda for professional. Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat. Everyone's welcome to dive in and check it out. But our personal contract is that we will be truthful, and specifically around running out of time. Can't complete something, we let each other know, and we're much more interested in being honest than faking it. Courtesy, good manners, don't interrupt, one conversation at a time. Instead, carefully contemplate what the other person's saying, comes from their mind and heart, which is different from ours. And rather than criticizing something or saying what it's wrong, get curious and reframe that as a question. And as structure, we I'd added the ability to just take turns raising hands in a conversation rather than talking over each other. And also that gives the advantage of, if you're talking about something that's on the same topic, you put your hand sideways. So, I'm going to jump the queue so that we don't bounce from topic to topic. Oh, I have a new topic. And, jumping through the others, be respectful. We're humans. We have faults. Give honest feedback. If we don't like something, tell us. If a line is crossed, we are not minors. Tell you with compassion. I'm going to ask questions, but when I get feedback, I'm not going to debate you. Feedback is a gift, and my 1 or 2 word answer will be thank you. And finally, be fully present. Come to a meeting, be in a meeting. Text and Slack never stop. But if you need to duck out because life or the world got in the way, or you just need to use the bathroom, just, check out, leave, and then check back in when you're fully present.
Awesome. Yeah, so those were kind of some guiding principles, and then we got a little more into how to have a meeting, how to work professionally with each other, and how to expect things. One of the things is to be on time, start on time, and end on time. Even if we didn't quite finish right when our meeting ended, and we had, okay, then these are the next steps we're accountable for, but we're going to end on time so we can all make it to our next meeting or our next objective. And then also, just part of a meeting is coming in and be a little bit prepared as much as possible, but coming in knowing 0 is less effective than coming in going, okay, I've contemplated X, Y, and Z. I don't have, thoughts, but I'm ready to have a conversation about it. Helps a lot. Do the work. Don't put it off. The sooner you have something, even in a draft form, the sooner it can reach conclusion and get through some revisions. Commit is a big thing for us. Say what you mean and do what you say. To be transparent in everything. And really, if you're doing something that you don't want to share, then should it be done at all? And holding yourself to that internal moral compass. Quality over quantity is something that we liked. And then teamwork. We got more to teamwork and feedback. We had feedback twice, both personally and professionally. And the reason I think we split that was we like the feedback from each other, and we expect that, and we will treat that as respect, but also in the professional realm to be mindful that feedback, and when it's just written, can come off with no tone. And so to take yourself out of that and not to be offended by feedback that comes that way. We talked about having positives versus criticisms, and also constructive feedback, meaning, you were right, you were on the right path, but I think I would have finished the path this way. Maybe if you had thought in this terms, we could have reached a consensus sooner, but also just looking for ways to move forward. And then our decision-making process, we were doing the finger shooting, in which if we had to ask a decision, you show everyone, if someone on your team goes, I cannot support this decision, I am blocking it. That's a 1. 2 is, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm going to go ahead and support it because the majority is going to rule, and it probably doesn't impact me, but it is what it is. 3 is you're okay. 4 is you support, and 5 is you strongly support. And the goal is to have everyone at 2 or above, and that any team member can propose amendments prior to prior decisions that were made. But you're also always going to be returning to that. So that's where we were. That was our end. Thanks, everyone. questions?
Yeah. So I'm going to interject. This is awesome, but I want to ask for feedback from anyone just with this little look into what has been done, like what's come top of mind. Yeah, it can be constructive. It can be like, can be whatever. So we've got some coming in. Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat because we are going to be moving through quite quickly. Does anyone have some feedback that they want to voice? Eva.
I have a question about one of the points is that be courteous, and a lot of people just finish speaking. What about when you have certain people who just speak a lot and take up a lot of more time than other people? Like women speak less, minorities speak less. Like, how do you deal with those situations?
Yeah, the raising your hand was in part intended to address that, and the raising your hand sideways just to kind of structure the topic so that, and it greatly benefits on our team. There are 3 people who talk more than the other 2, and I am one of the 2 that talks the least on our team of 5, which I've never been in that situation before, and it constantly blows my mind. And I find that the raising of hands makes me feel safe. The person who talks the most hates it. It confuses some people that feel like the raising the hand is an interruption, which it is not. It's just getting in queue. And there actually are some good remote tools for that. And one of the members of our team, Dave Wood, is on a lot of W3C committees with people across many cultures, ages, genders, quality of internet connections. And they just have really strong facilitation for their international W3C calls of getting into the queue. And it just works like a genius. There are some design thinking ways where if people the introverts each come to their own, present their work and put it on the wall, and then, or a remote wall like a mural, and then that way everyone gets to say the best ideas win, as opposed to who is comfortable talking, as a way to do that. But for our group, none of us were shy, so we didn't include that. I hope that helps.
Cool, thanks, Trace. Any other points of feedback or comment?
What if you have no agenda? Will you still make the meeting going on?
Sorry, Meta?
I was just going to say probably not. If there was something to prepare, then that's what you're preparing. Whether or not, like, to me, the agenda is not as important as the meeting objective. So our meeting objective was social contract, right? There's really no agenda to that, but we knew that had to mean something to us to come together and discuss it. Yeah, and Alexander's right. That's a really good business, tool. No agenda, no meeting in the chat. But I think the objective can double as the agenda, depending on the type of meeting it is. If it is a design meeting that has no agenda, it's not going to have one. So,
okay.
So one of the people that's on our team, and what we did is we brought 2 members from another company into the mesh. And one of them is like a really strong leader who's put rovers on Mars and just basically doing the impossible as his business. He has this thing, and he's also really into kind of executive training, and is this thing called an impact filter, which I'm happy to share. I'll share an example with the group in the chat in a second. But it's the type of thing where you should come in not just prepared. What are your goals for the meeting? What does success look like? And also, what does failure look like?
Okay, cool. So an outcome to, okay. So this is like an interesting tangent, I think, that we can jump into. I personally don't like agendas, and often our teams create the agenda in the first 5 minutes, and it's super awesome. Anyway, just saying. I want to give some feedback, which is I think this is awesome, and I think that there's a lot of detail, and that it might be hard to keep this alive because people might get lost in the detail. And I'm wondering how you could pull out like really like a crucial, like, we commit to this, and maybe a summary sentence, and then have like the richness elsewhere. Because my fear is like this may just become like all of the things that we all want to commit to, and then we commit to everything and then nothing. Although I do see like there's some really like rich detail, and you've thought through it properly, but I'm just like a little bit like, wow, that's detail.
Yeah, I think that was the nature of how we had to pre-develop it, in terms of we were all putting stuff in writing in advance of meeting. And so I wanted to make sure that, you know, stuff that I submitted had the context. So the rest of my team knew were like, be respectful. Well, what does that actually mean to me? Be courteous. What does that mean to me? So just doing it that way, I think, is where the detail came from. And we were able to bounce off of each other in terms of, yeah, you're right. That is a part of being courteous, and that is a part of being respectful. And because those are all things we want and we want to keep in the social contract. So the detail, I think, came from combining our various versions of respect, courtesy, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, cool. That's great. And it's great that you dug into that, because that's so important in social contracts, understanding what people's versions of a word is. And I still would say distill. Thank you so much, Tracer. We've got to move on now. That was awesome. And thanks for putting the care into it. And we've got to hear from our next team, because we've got 2 more to go. Who's up next?
We can go. Were we team Koru, I think? Koru, or team Koru.
A New Zealand tree. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm sharing the link right now. So I think we kind of like took the opposite approach a little bit. We didn't like go so into detail. We kind of like defined like higher level goals. So the first thing that we did is we like had desired results of our group. And so like what was the purpose of the contract more than like what was actual details of the contract. And so improving like our conflict resolution skills, learning how to make social contracts outside of just this group, but like bring that into either other teams in the mesh or other social groups just in our day-to-day lives. And then awareness of other groups that like we support together. And then we kind of like time commitments, like what do we expect as a team together to do. So that was like a 30-minute weekly meeting that we're going to have. Individually, we all are going to we didn't define the actual amount of time, but just saying like we're going to individually put in this much time into our own personal homeworks for this class, and then also into the team homeworks together outside of that 30-minute weekly meeting. And then constantly just like communicating with us, with the other members of the team if you can't make anything, whatever you're working on, and basically like anything that would kind of deviate from this. And then anyone on the team, like totally feel free to jump in if you have anything else to say. And then how you show up, we said like be present, be dedicated to kind of like what the last team said, just making sure that you're doing your homework beforehand. When you're there, you're like fully committed to the talk and giving everyone your full attention, being inclusive of the agenda and collaborating to make sure that everyone's working on things that they want to. That was a big thing that Eva kind of spearheaded, like making sure that we don't all get like in this social self-organization class, that we don't all get siloed into things that we normally do, but like we each have the ability to explore new kinds of roles and just like being able to grow ourselves outside of just like learning this one skill, but overall as people. And shipping and assigning prototypes. Yeah, we kind of just like with the weekly meetings, we just kind of said we'd all work on it over the week whenever we had time, and then during that 30-minute weekly call, we would just kind of put everything together. We have it on Thursday, so the day before the meeting, we kind of all come together and combine our thoughts, and then hopefully it's ready for the Friday meeting, like right now. And we're all fairly distributed, but we found a time that like worked for all of us, so that shouldn't be a problem from now on. But we wanted to be conscious that everyone was like working in like a reasonable time zone, no one was up too late, that everyone could be present at the same time. Like Sam School can't come to Friday meetings because it's like a religious event in Dubai, so being conscious of that. And then lastly, like we define what it meant to be a great team. So kind of like the first thing, like what is the desired results for each of us individually, or like expected outcomes. It's also like how do we want to interact on a continual basis. And so kind of summarizes everything that we did over the course of the social contract, like making sure everyone's in communication, making sure that everything is structured and that people know exactly what they're responsible for and the criteria that they should be meeting, swapping out roles and things like that. So yeah, that was us, Team Korea.
Awesome. Great. Does anyone have questions or comments or feedback?
One sort of question or prompt, I guess, that I'd like to throw out there is, I know
I find the points of overlap between ours and your team, Skiba, interesting. I feel like things are starting to emerge.
Oh, do we have some lag on the call?
Yeah, I had a bit of lag. My bad. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, I think I'm back, and I was just commenting on the overlap and the areas of intersection between what your team did and what our team did. I found that interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. And Lisa, you were talking.
Yeah, I saw something on the document there about conflict resolution skills, and it kind of prompted a question or an invitation, I guess, to all of you, which is to think about or agree, and it doesn't have to be explicit, but to think about how you can hold each other to account for these agreements. So it's quite normal in groups, especially, it's a 5-week course, which isn't that long in the life cycle of a team or a group. So it's easy to be sort of super polite and not wanting to disrupt anything, but it's a really good learning exercise to practice calling it out if the group isn't holding true to any of these agreements, or in person, or a few individuals aren't holding up their agreements. So do any of you have any thoughts about that? Have you discussed that in your teams, or yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. This was during our call last night or yesterday evening for me, but I can't remember exactly what we defined as like the path to conflict resolution. I think it was just more in general, like the expected outcomes wasn't for our team in this class. It was more like afterwards. How do we want to, I guess, engage with the world? So yeah, that's a good point. Though. Like, what exactly does it look like in this context?
Kiba, can I offer something constructive from reviewing the document? Similar to our feedback and learning that and taking that to heart. The document reads like some notes. It's a little hard to parse. Just like what is the sound bite and the desired outcome?
This is like a collection of, I think each of these is by one different person. So maybe each of us should say, actually, Sam's did the second one and he's not on this call. But I'd say like learning how to facilitate social contracts, because my team, the branding team, is like going through some changes right now. And so like even before and earlier on in my internship, there was problems between like my team and like the other teams that we collaborated with, specifically about like the social contracts. We don't have strict legal contracts, so our agreements with other teams are always falling through. And I was trying to like kind of fix that with scope of works, which is a form of social contract, I guess you can say. So for me, it was about like just learning how to apply these skills in another way. So this is just like one. I wasn't looking at this course as like the end all be all, but like as a means of becoming better in another environment.
Oh yeah, I think. Sorry, Eva, go ahead.
I think this contract is a product of about 45 minutes of group work, so that's why it's note form. I'm curious as to how long, because yours is really well written and really well thought out. I just wonder how long you spent on that, Trace.
We spent an hour together. Also, Amanda came in with just something that was awesome, and to the point where like I didn't want to remove any of it, and only had some pretty key things to add. And then I went in and added, some discrete items, tactical things like the finger shoot exercise that we talked about. And Ashoka had some travel in a conference, so he missed the meeting, but checked in with us at the end, that he reviewed and supported and lent his support to what we did. And then Chris had to drop.
That's interesting. Like the way that work gets done is really interesting to me to explore in this course too. But I'd say that for me, this was like a light touch, pretty asynchronous process. So that's why this is, if we had more in-person meeting time, just hard for us this week because I was also traveling, but like, yeah, it might be different products, but that's also interesting.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I only spent about 20-25 minutes putting together my initial thoughts. And I set a limit for myself. I mean, if I could write, I would write forever. But I told myself, what are the top 5 things I need personally in a team? And what are the top 5 things professionally I want in my coworkers? and I stopped at 5. Like at 5. So really, I think maybe I did 6 because something had come up. We ended up at 9. So Trace definitely added that discrete aspect. I've always kind of been thrust into groups in which no one wants to take the leadership role, and I'm like, all right, here's my thoughts, yay, nay, go. And I just kind of like working in that way in which I look at my thoughts as personal, but in a group setting, I know that everything is changeable and everyone comes in with different views. And so what I put out, I also expect to be broken apart, and I don't take it personally. I take all that as additional learning to bring to the next group I join. So it's just kind of a way I view group work in general, that, yeah, I have my guiding principles, but it becomes this give and take that you learn from every group you progress through. And so it just, I put in my core, like, I definitely treat people with respect and courtesy, and I'm going to be there because I think one of the things was I'm always going to work hard because my work is a reflection of us. It isn't just a reflection of me, it's a reflection of us as a team. And I think when someone buys into a group at that level, you just get better output in general. Oh, sorry.
Cool. I believe in that. I just said, I told Alex, because I could tell that he also takes on that role, and I do too. Like, you're not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. Like, we're going to wait and see what happens. That is what I was trying to force in this assignment.
I have to stop you there. This is a super interesting discussion. I'm glad you're bringing this question, Eva, of like, how do we get work done, especially in this async way, and like, what are the skills that are going into that and the ways of being and working. But we have 16 minutes left and one team to present and get feedback and check out. And I just want to give some really quick last feedback on this, which is, I think it's great. It's like to the point. I think you followed the slide that I made, like to the point. And I'm also inviting you to like scrap some of the instructions in these assignments and do what feels right to you. Like, it's never going to be do this, do this, do this, do this. It's like, here's something, here's a model. And like, no, don't apologize, Eva. I think you were just super interested in where this conversation was going. And yeah, so the last thing would be like, where's the heart and soul in this, in the social contract? How are you going to commit to each other if it's like, it's great because it's a 5-week training, but also we're here to like connect, I think, as humans and align. And yeah, so that's my feedback. Thanks. And yeah, we don't need to apologize. Sorry, I should ask for consent to facilitate you, which I did not do at the beginning of this call. Okay, next team.
Okay, it's our team.
Itam, yes.
Yeah. So we actually have some work to do, but I'm sharing the document right now. So I can share my screen. So yeah, we kept it light, but we still had, definitely we're going to do some, we're going to buff it up a bit this coming week. So members, it's Dunia, Claudel, and myself. Claudel and myself are both under Eastern time, and Dunia is in France. So basically, since we are the majority, we're going to accommodate our time zone. I'm just kidding, no. So we're gonna start working through that. The desired result was to learn how to facilitate social contracts in the future within our teams. Time commitment, as a team, we scheduled every Wednesday for 45 minutes meetings to review all the homework and get ready for our next sessions. And we're going to dedicate about 30 minutes on the personal side as well to get ready for that meeting. How we show up to every meeting. So you have to talk about something good that happened to you, something not as good that happened to you, or what you're looking forward to this coming week. Think about it. It's not an easy one. Shipping assignments, we're going to say who is going to do what, supporting, we're going to use Google Doc and Quip to share everything we do together, and we are communicating. We're having a Slack channel already set up to communicate through. Managing time zone, as I mentioned, we're going to have calls, so we're trying to accommodate, the European time zone, so we're going to have meetings every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Eastern time, to make sure we all fit within the business time. So that's for now. We still have a lot to do, especially after what was presented so far. So yeah, we have to buff it up a bit.
Great, thanks, Ethan.
Yeah.
Anyone else from your team want to add anything?
Yes, regarding the social contract, I have to admit that well, on my side, it was really focused, on efficiency and what helped things be done. Because maybe it's in France, I don't know, but here the priority is just to work. And thinking about social contract, put the personality of people and the human being just at the center of everything. Whereas in our mindset, which is in the center of everything, is your job and your objective and these things to do. So I think yes, I think it's quite complex, to think out of the box and to maybe stay and say, okay, what will be the best great team ever through which agreements. So this is the reason why the first point are mainly focused on how we organize meeting. So which is basically always say hi, always say goodbye, always be sure that we have objectives, next step, and an agenda, and make sure everybody share their vision and ideas during these meetings, which is yes, according to us, really, really important to just to work efficiently. So I don't know whether you think about it, but yeah, this is the focus we have here.
Thanks, Dunia. Does anyone want to give some feedback to these guys or ask them clarifying questions?
I like the how you say hi and how you say bye in meetings, as opposed to just very tactical agenda. Let's get it done. Losing the human element. I resonate with that.
Good question. I can take that one. I think once we jump on the call, and again, of course, Etam and Dunia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're already, like, the first thing I think Etam and I said, we're joking already. So I think it kind of set the vibe for how we talk to each other. So I don't think we had that idea of, okay, let's get to that level of granularity, because I think that, again, we talked for like 15 or 10 minutes, even as part of the breakout that we had. And in that time, we managed to know about ourselves and joke and actually be efficient. So I think, and again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, that aspect of the social contract was just, I don't know how to say it in English, but inexplicit, but shared. At least that's how I see it.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that this is a crucial thing around social contracts, is that we are in the current practice right now of making the implicit explicit. And the reason we do that for social contracts is so that when stuff gets hard, which may not get super, super tough and like lots of conflict in this 5-week training where you've formed a team and you've made a social contract, but in our bigger teams that go for years, or as we build product together or whatever, things do get hard, and we do need to make the implicit extremely explicit, which is, for me, one of the social contracts I made with my team is like, we want to enjoy work, we want to keep it fun, and like that, and that's enshrined in like our social contract. And so that means like when things are super heavy, when we're just like swimming in the work and we're like, oh, I'm so tired, and we think, okay, we're not here to do this, and like the other day we went out to went to a gallery and had a meeting, walking around the streets of Barcelona, and ate ice cream, and afterwards we're like, yes, like this is why we're here, and we will get the work done. And like because of this, this connection and this alignment and this commitment to this thing that we do need that, like in our social contract. So, and that's a funny example, but yeah, I think these are really great, like first passes at a social contract, and I'm inviting you to think about, if you applied this in your teams, how can you make the implicit explicit, and how can you actually have the conversations around what matters to you. I think it was really good to see that in the one from Trace and Amanda, like we are like making really clear what matters to us personally and thinking about the definitions here, and how can we collectively come to agreement around what matters to us as a group. And some people might be, I don't want to have fun. Like, no, like I do really want to take this super seriously. It's like, yeah, you want to have fun. I want to be super serious. How can we meet in the middle? And like, how can we have these conversations? And through that is where you come up with the thing that binds you, because you've gone there and you've had these conversations and you've gone to the bottom of what, how are we aligning? How do we want to be together? This is a question from a social contract that I want to bring up again and just put out there. And I think we might like just sum up on this now to move to a checkout. But so our ask to you is, how are you going to keep these social contracts alive? What will you do if someone like breaches the social contract? That's the next thing to think about, which we'll ask you to do in probably in 10 days or so. Like from now, this is the contract you've made. Etienne's team, you might need to fill in a little bit more just to get a bit more richer detail. Please use this as our learning opportunity. How are you going to call someone out when they do cross it? What does call out? I mean, how are you going to raise awareness on that and say, you know, use this amazing opportunity to practice. Hey, we had an agreement about not being late for meetings. You know, it will happen. And so the challenge to you is to keep it alive and to actually make it a thing that you do. Agree to the social contract, commit to it. If people breach it, how are you as a team? What are you going to do? So that's kind of the last part of how we're going to start using these social contracts throughout this 5 weeks. So it's going to be fun. Do you want to add anything there, Lisa?
Yeah, I read once this term violent politeness in a book, which I really loved, which was sort of saying that sometimes well-intentioned politeness can really get in the way for effective communication, for real learning. So I just put a bit of a provocation in the chat there about how can you practice some radical candor in your teams, and it's kind of a safe space to have a go at, especially if you're someone that, like me, is not very good at being assertive, or when you notice that something's kind of slipping through the net a bit, take a breath and use this course as an opportunity to say, hey guys, can I just call attention to the fact that it seems like we're not really living up to that agreement? What do we want to do about that? So that would be my invitation to you.
That's still so polite, and I love it. Cool. Okay, any questions on that little last bit before we start checking out? Cool. Any comments on social contracts and keeping them alive, and also the fact that they're full of nice stuff, and they should be. They're full of the stuff that like makes you want to align together. And then the other half is that they're using like things that you agree on to help you keep that alignment. So it's like this balance. How do we like really grow as humans and build great things and actually deliver and like, you know, meet the objective? And how do we like not lose our humanity in the process and actually make it more sustainable to be in a team together? So that's the hook. We're checking out. Yeah, Lisa, I'm going to type you the question. Sorry, I want to stop talking, so Lisa's going to hold the checkout, and I haven't given her the question yet.
Ooh, so exciting. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. Okay, so the checkout question is, what is one thing that we should know about you?
Oh God.
So, Kate, maybe if you can go first and kind of give us a bit of an example to go with.
Cool, yeah. One thing you should know about me is I'm extremely obsessed with like 19th century Irish literature and poetry. Done. I'm going to call you in. Well, is that all right, Lisa? Kiba.
Okay. I think I'm like really bad at like long-term personal relationships, just in general, just like staying in contact with people when you're like not in the same room with them, and making sure, just like that's on point. Next person, Amanda.
So I am someone who actually has really crazy brain modes, and I learn best by formalizing my music to my topic. So when I was in college, I would always study to a specific movie soundtrack for a class. And then when I got to that final, I'd just be thinking of that soundtrack and be like, oh yeah, here's all my stuff. And I'm a heavy audio learner. So I definitely, music is on 100% of the time unless I'm on a call. Let's do Claudel.
Thank you. I think I'm very frameworky when I walk. Everything I do, actually, I have to have a 1, 2, 3. My wife asked me, what movie are you watching tonight? Okay, step 1, just think about this. And it's very annoying. So I will call out Dunya.
Sorry. Still thinking about it. Maybe one thing which is bad, and I think I will improve myself through this learning, is that I am impatient, and for some reason, I think there is a lot of things to improve regarding these points. Because I'm really, really excited for everything. It's part of my energy. I work a lot. I'm a hard worker. I'm only 100%. But if people don't follow me at this same level of energy, I feel like I have to wait, and that's just. So I have to work on it. And so yeah, that's something.
And who are you going to nominate, Dunya?
A-Town.
Dunya, you just stole mine, but I'll go with Plan B. So once a week, someone on the street will ask me if I am Vin Diesel, the actor, for the past 10 years.
Awesome. Who are you going to nominate?
All right, Alexander.
Oh man, one thing you guys should know about me is I have a very large sneaker collection. I have so many sneakers I won't actually tell people how many, and it's just like it's crazy. I keep them clean. I have like a closet full. It drives my girlfriend crazy, but yeah.
Are you the male version of Imelda Marcos?
Pardon?
Are you the male version of Imelda Marcos? She was the, yeah.
I know people with more than me, so I don't feel bad. But
Okay, Alexander, who are you going to pass it on to?
who's left? I'm sorry. Trace. Yeah.
So I'm a young soul. May not get everything right the first time, but your feedback's welcome. I will take it to heart, learn, and in time I will get it. And Eva?
One thing is that I can't swim, and I've been trying to learn for like years, and I still need to keep taking those adult swimming classes and practicing. That's my weird thing. I'm always like trying to figure out how I can learn to swim.
Cool.
Is there anyone left? Yeah.
Everyone, isn't it? Yeah. Just me, right? Yeah. So something you should know about me is I resonated with Amanda, actually. I'm a bit of a movie soundtrack geek, and I'm going to see Hans Zimmer live next year, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, I'm a movie nerd in general, but movie soundtracks are my thing. So yeah, great. Good session, everyone. Anything?
Great.
Okay.
Only 2 minutes late. We're usually on time. That was super fun. Thanks, everyone. Really high-powered. Thanks for the beautiful check-in around learning edges. And I invite you to really actually think about that. We didn't actually have time to talk about immunity to change. So please do discuss in your groups. Sorry about that. We do try to pack a bit in. And then we get very distracted by how interesting a certain topic is. So yeah, invite you to discuss immunity to change in your groups, in your teams. And we've given you the reader for next week as well. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Slack. Looking forward to Monday. Our guest is amazing. Please do come with challenges you're facing in your own teams and your relationships, but it's around building collaborative culture, listening, what we call adult to adult relationships, conflict as well. So see you on Monday. Thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
See you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye bye.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, Lisa, I've got